And welcome back to Profiles in Business here, part of Business Matters with Chip Evans at American Matters Media. And next up, we've got a very interesting, kind of outside the norm for the program here. Alexander Falcone is here with us from our Nevada judges. So, Alexander, welcome.
Thank you.
Alexander, tell us just a little bit about yourself before we go into learning about this effort that you're involved in.
Well, I moved out of my parents' home when I was 18, went to the University of Nevada, Reno, because I had two options with which to use the Millennium Scholarship, and I wanted to get, a little bit of distance, learn how to be myself. About 2 years into college, had a child, and then that ended up in a little bit of a messy split, and a child custody dispute came out. So eventually I did resolve that issue, and I went back to school, and I found out that I could apply my degree, which is computer science and engineering, in ways that could help other parents and non-voters understand sort of how the judicial system works. And I eventually decided to put together a website that rated judges. The difference between this website and many others is a lot of websites that rate judges basically take in what you call reviews from whether they're attorneys or non-attorneys. These reviews tend to be biased, and I kept that in my mind going into that. The voters, I don't believe, are stupid, and there's not a lot you can put into those types of websites. They don't have much credibility. So what I did instead was I removed the whole personal opinion out of the equation completely and put together a website that tracks judges according to how the Supreme Court of Nevada reviews them. And based on that, you can look at a judge and see how many errors they've had reversed or remanded. And I believe that that will help voters a lot more than any other kind of system that's in place right now.
Okay, so one of the challenges that all of us have is, figuring out in elections of judges, how's the public supposed to relate to that? Is it their amount of good hair? Is it a smile? Is it how long they've been on the bench?
That's exactly one of the biggest problems. That's what keeps a lot of the public out of the judicial elections, because they don't really know how to rate these judges. With a politician, it comes down to your opinion, and if they match up with you, about whatever your issue is, whether it's guns or abortion or religion, and you can kind of gauge that and decide who you're going to vote for. But with judges, they're nonpartisan elections, and unless there's some kind of huge scandal, like the judge is being investigated for some kind of fraud or something, the people tend to stay out of it. They tend to just skip it, or they vote for the incumbent, just assuming that he must not be that terrible if he hasn't, cheated on his wife or something like that. So that's what brings in a system where you can see, this judge is being graded by the highest court in the state. They have a boss just like we do, and when they mess up, there's a way to find out. It was kind of surprising that these numbers weren't already in place, so I kind of took it upon myself to gather all of the data and put it up on the web for people to see.
So, let's see. Judges sometimes, by happenstance, wind up being handed specific trials, much like lawyers. Sometimes, they don't get to pick their clients all the time. They represent somebody who has a need to be represented, and the definition of a really good lawyer is somebody who represents whoever their client is really well. And what you've done is you've kind of skipped the who they're talking about and what they're talking about, but whether they've handled the law well by virtue of how the Supreme Court of Nevada views the handling of the law.
Correct.
Is that a fair restatement?
Pretty much. A good judge understands their role is to interpret the law, not to create the law, not to be sort of a law unto themselves and just decide whatever they want. And there's Nevada revised statutes are put together by the legislature, and whenever there's some gaps or ambiguities, the Nevada Supreme Court will publish something, and they're supposed to make their decisions based on these factors. And when they don't, that's when we have errors. And it's disappointing because the process is burdened by the litigant. The judge doesn't have to pay any money when he makes a mistake. The litigant does. They have to go fight it. And when they win their appeal, the case usually isn't over. It goes right back down to the court, and they have to trudge on. So, it's a big thing, and especially when it comes to family judges, because so many family cases are not appealed because parents, they don't have the money for it. They don't have the attorneys. They don't know how to do it. And so those judges especially need to be extremely careful to apply the law correctly, because they're not being checked, every 100 case. They're probably being checked maybe once every 1,000 case. So when family judges especially have errors, there's usually a lot more going on than just what you see. There's a lot, and it ruins lives,
Yeah.
So-
Now, do you come with the assumption that we've got a particularly lousy set of judges out there right now, or
Actually,
How-
I have been kind of a big advocate for the judicial system. I've told a lot of my friends that I think our system works really well. I think there are definitely problems, but I've used the court system a lot, and I've only once ever filed a judicial ethics complaint. So that's kind of a big thing. I'm not really attacking judges in general. There's a small percentage of them that love their jobs, and you can tell. And there's a small percentage of them that don't do a very good job. For the most part, our Supreme Court, I believe, is awesome, and as long as they remain top notch, they'll be able to fix the mistakes that you may encounter on your legal journey. So because of that, I'm a big advocate for the Nevada judicial system. And
now, when you look at the decisions on appeal that make it to the Supreme Court, do you have a sense that there's partisanship at play, that ideology has trumped the law in some cases?
well, with the United States Supreme Court, I do believe that has happened. But with the Nevada Supreme Court, I don't believe it. I looked at quite a few cases. And I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a software engineer first. I've looked at quite a few decisions, and they look like they're not partisan.
So engineers have a propensity to create numbers where numbers didn't exist. You have a rating system of some sort, or just a tally of overturned cases?
I basically count up the cases where they've not made a mistake, and I count up the total number of cases, and I just divide that number, and so you'll get a percentage of errors. I don't count dismissals because those cases never reached actually what they call a decision on the merits. A lot of cases, especially in family court, are dismissed because they're procedurally improper. So I skip those. I do post them on the site, but I don't count them in as far as a correct or mistake because they really never got to that point.
Does this have the characteristics of a business? I'm on your site here, and I'm seeing advertisements for judges. Is that tell us how that works?
Some candidates and judges have submitted advertisements, and they do pay. I never intended the site to be a moneymaker, but if it does end up becoming one, that would allow me to expand into other areas, perhaps expand the program into the United States rather than just Nevada. But at this point, it's really just small contributions.
Okay. And describe, in general, how your website's set up for folks that haven't been to it. First off, it's ournevadajudges.com.
Right. There's two main links for a voter. Basically, there's the judges, where you can click on that link and you can look at any Nevada judge that's in office now or has ever been in office, and you can click on that judge's profile, and you'll be able to review not only their record on appeal, but you'll also be able to see all of their articles, so you don't really have to fish around. If you're a voter and you want to see, whether you're going to vote for an incumbent or a candidate who's running against him, you can very quickly at your fingertips have all of the information that's been out on that judge. And there's also a second link called Candidates for people who just want to get basically a list of candidates and what jurisdiction they're in. But the meat of the website is the judges link, and from that one link you can pretty much look at any judge who's being challenged and look at also their list of challengers.
And one of the things I think I saw on the website was that, if somebody claims they have a certificate in this or a degree in that or whatever, that you actually force them to submit documentation.
Yes. I have had numerous candidates and judges send in all kinds of information they want posted on their profile, and I will not post it unless they show me proof. And when you go onto a profile and you see that someone has an endorsement, you click on the link and you will see a signed PDF of the endorsement. When you see articles, you click on the article and you will get taken straight to the article. And when you click on any cases, if the case says reversed or remanded or whatever, you click on that case and you will get a PDF of that case. If they don't back it up, it's not going to go up.
What sort of reactions have you had to the website, either from the legal community?
Mainly, it's been an explosion of support, especially from Clark County. I kind of had no idea how huge the political race there was for judges until I made the site, and I just pretty much got inundated. Washoe County has been pretty quiet. I've only talked to maybe 2 or 3 candidates, mainly on the Chuck Weller race. But there have been, you could call them veiled, very, very lightly veiled threats. typical stuff. People don't like their candidate, especially what do they call them, the campaign managers. They don't want to see their candidate ruined by what could be a game changer in this election. So, but there's not a whole lot they can do because it's not my opinion. It's the Supreme Court's, and they know that. So, there's not a lot they can do. Mainly, it's support.
I'm trying to imagine how to, how to use your site best if there's an incumbent judge, and typically the person running against him hasn't been a judge. So you don't have apples and apples to really compare there. Is there a trick in your mind?
Well, that's up to the voter. Every voter's going to rate certain things differently, but there are some candidates who have been published by the Supreme Court, and that I think is telling as to their experience. When you see a profile that's got 3 or 4 publications, especially if they're winning appeals, that guy's probably going to be a really good judge. But other than that, I suspect that unless you open a profile and see an error rate of like 35 or 40%, that's a problem. I'm not sure how that can get much worse with a new candidate. And if you see a bunch of articles on there where they're getting rated lowest by not only lawyers, but they're under attack by other organizations, those are signs that that judge needs to be changed. A lot of people will just vote for the incumbent because they don't know, and that's kind of the information that I'm putting out there.
So we've been talking with Alexander Falcone, who has the OurNevadaJudges.com website, a place to evaluate your judges and candidates. I invite you to go check it out. Alexander, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And good luck in making this an even better asset to the community out there. We certainly need some insights into what's going on in these judge races.
Thanks for having me, Chip.
Okay, well, thank you, listeners, for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week at the same time.